November 10th, 1918. You'd think I'd remember the armistice. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. That's what everyone talks about. The moment the guns went silent. The end of the Great War. But I don't remember that day clearly at all. It's the night before that haunts me. My last night in the war. The night I can't forget no matter how hard I try. My name is Thomas Riley, Sergeant, 28th Infantry Division, Pennsylvania National Guard. We called ourselves the Keystone Division. I was 23 years old when I enlisted in 1917, fresh off a farm outside Pittsburgh. Thought I was a man. Thought I knew what courage meant. The Army made me a sergeant after the Meuse-Argonne offensive started. Not because I was brave or smart, because everyone above me was dead. That's how you got promoted in 1918. You survived long enough, and suddenly you had stripes and boys looking to you for orders you had no business giving. By November, I'd been in France for 8 months. Château-Thierry, Saint-Mihiel, the Argonne Forest, each one worse than the last, each one taking more boys who'd never see home again. We knew the end was coming. You could feel it. The Germans were falling back, their lines collapsing. Word came down through channels that armistice talks were happening. Soon, they said. Maybe days, maybe hours. Soon. That word did something to men's heads. When you think you're going to die, you make peace with it. You go numb. But when you think you might live, when home stops being a dream and starts being a possibility, that's when the fear really takes hold. Because getting killed on the last day of the war, that's not tragedy. That's cosmic joke. That's God laughing at you. November 10th, 1918. My last night in the war. We were dug in near a village called Ville-de-Vent-Chaumont, just north of Verdun. The Germans were across the river, maybe half a mile away. We'd been trading artillery fire all day, but nothing serious. Both sides knew it was almost over. Almost. That word killed more men than bullets, I think. The order came at 1900 hours, 23 hours before the armistice would take effect. Riley, take your squad across the river. Recon patrol. Germans are pulling back and headquarters wants to know their positions before the ceasefire. I stared at Lieutenant Morrison like he'd lost his mind. Sir, with respect, the war's over in less than a day. Why? Because those are the orders, Sergeant. Take 8 men, cross at the ford, sweep the tree line, report back. Should take 2 hours. Should take 2 hours. Like this was a Sunday stroll. I picked my men. Had to. That's what sergeants do. I picked the ones I thought had the best chance. The veterans. The lucky ones. 8 of them, plus me, made 9. There was Corporal Jack Donnelly from Boston. Been with me since Saint-Mihiel. Good soldier, steady hands. Private First Class Vincent Calabrese. Brooklyn kid who could shoot better than anyone I'd ever seen. Henry Walton from Georgia, farm boy like me. The Murphy twins, Sean and Patrick from Chicago. Joseph Klein from Milwaukee. Robert Bobby Hayes from Philadelphia. And young Eddie Marshall from some small town in Ohio whose name I can never remember. Eddie was 18 years old, and he'd been in France for 6 weeks. We moved out at 2000 hours, full dark, cold, that bone-deep November cold that settles into your joints and never leaves. We could see our breath in the air. The river was low, and we crossed at the ford in silence. The water came up to our waists, freezing. I remember thinking that if I died tonight, at least I'd die clean for once. The far bank was quiet, too quiet. No machine gun fire, no flares. The Germans were pulling back, just like headquarters said, but that didn't mean they were gone. We moved through the tree line in a skirmish formation, rifles ready. Every snap of a twig sounded like a gunshot. Every shadow looked like a German soldier. We were almost through the trees when Donnelly held up his fist. Stop. We froze, listened. At first, nothing. Then I heard it too. Voices, German voices, laughing. They were in a clearing maybe 50 yards ahead. We could see the glow of their fire through the trees. Morrison had said recon, find their positions and fall back, that's all. We'd done our job. We could turn around right now and report back. But something made me move forward. Curiosity, maybe, or stupidity. Or maybe I just wanted to see the faces of the men we'd been killing for 8 months. I motioned the squad forward, slowly, carefully. That decision killed 4 of them. We crept close enough to see the clearing. There were maybe 20 Germans there, young guys, most of them, sitting around a fire, passing a bottle. Their rifles were stacked against a tree. They weren't expecting trouble. Why would they be? The war was hours from being over. One of them was playing a harmonica. The melody drifted through the cold air, something sad and slow. Another was writing a letter by firelight. They looked like us, tired, dirty, just wanting to go home. I should have pulled back then. Should have led my men away, reported the position, called it a night. 4 of them would still be alive if I had. But I didn't. I don't know what happened. 1 second we were watching, and the next, Eddie Marshall. Young, nervous Eddie. His rifle went off. Just discharged. Maybe his finger slipped. Maybe he panicked. Maybe it was an accident. Doesn't matter why. The bullet hit one of the Germans in the chest. He fell backward into the fire. Everything exploded. The Germans scattered, grabbing for their rifles. We opened fire because that's what you do when you're compromised. Training takes over. Survival takes over. We poured rounds into that clearing, and they fired back, and suddenly we were in a full firefight with less than a day left in the war. I saw Calabresi go down first. Headshot. He was dead before he hit the ground. Sean Murphy took one in the stomach. He screamed. God, he screamed. His brother Patrick grabbed him, trying to drag him to cover, and they both got cut down by machine gun fire. The Germans had set up a Maxim gun on our flank. How did we miss that? How did I miss that? Fall back, I was shouting it. Fall back! Fall back! Henry Walton was firing, providing cover. A grenade landed near him. I watched it happen, watched him look down at it, watched him try to run. The explosion threw him 10 feet. When I crawled over to him, half his face was gone. 4 dead in less than 2 minutes. The rest of us ran like hell through those trees, German bullets chasing us. We hit the river and plunged in, the water turning red around us. Bobby Hayes was hit in the leg, but kept moving. Klein was helping him. Donnelly was behind me, returning fire. We made it across. Somehow. 5 of us out of 9. The German machine gun kept firing until we were out of range. Then it stopped. Everything stopped. The night went quiet again, except for Bobby's moaning and the sound of us trying to breathe. I threw up in the mud. Couldn't help it. Just leaned over and emptied my stomach while my hands shook so badly I couldn't hold my rifle. 4 boys dead. 4 boys who would have been going home in 23 hours. I'd led them there. I'd gotten them killed. Morrison met us at the line. Looked at the 5 of us. Looked at the blood. Where are the others? I couldn't answer. Couldn't form the words. Riley, where are the others? Dead, sir. They're all dead. They didn't send anyone back for the bodies. Too dangerous, Morrison said. We'd get them after the armistice, after it was safe. Safe. That word didn't mean anything anymore. We sat in the trench for the rest of that night. The longest night of my life. Bobby Hayes died around 0300 hours. The leg wound had hit an artery. We tried to stop the bleeding, but we didn't have enough bandages. Didn't have a medic. He'd been killed 2 days before. So we just watched Bobby bleed out, pale and shaking, calling for his mother. 5 out of 9 now. 5 dead on the last night of the war. Klein sat with his back against the trench wall, not saying anything, just staring at his hands. They were covered in Bobby's blood. He didn't try to wipe it off. Donnelly was smoking, one cigarette after another, hands trembling. Eddie Marshall, the kid whose rifle had started it all, he was crying silently, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. And me? I just sat there. Number. Trying to understand how I'd let this happen. It was an accident, Donnelly said finally. His voice was hoarse. Eddie's rifle just went off. Could have happened to anyone. Doesn't matter, I said. I should have pulled back sooner. Should have never gotten that close. You couldn't have known. But I should have. That's what sergeants are supposed to do. Make the right calls. Keep their men alive. I'd failed at the only thing that mattered. Dawn came slowly. The sky turned gray, then pink, then gold. Beautiful morning. The kind of morning that makes you think the world might be okay after all. At 1100 hours, 11 o'clock, the guns stopped. Every single gun along the entire Western Front. 4 years of constant thunder and then silence, real silence. The kind that rings in your ears because you've forgotten what it sounds like. Men started cheering. All down the line you could hear it. Cheering, crying, laughing. The war was over. We'd survived. We were going home. I couldn't cheer. None of us could. The four of us left, me, Donnelly, Klein, and Eddie. We just sat there in that trench listening to everyone else celebrate. Klein finally spoke. They died for nothing. No, I said, but I didn't believe it. Didn't believe anything anymore. The war was over. We'd won. But I couldn't feel victorious. Could only feel the weight of those 5 bodies. 5 boys who almost made it. Almost. They came for the bodies on November 12th. I volunteered to guide the burial detail. I don't know why I did that. Some sense of duty, maybe. Or punishment. I'd led them out there. I should be the one to bring them back. We crossed the river in daylight. No gunfire now, no danger. The Germans were gone, pulled back to their own lines to wait for the final peace terms. The clearing where we'd fought looked different in the sun, smaller, less threatening. The bodies were still there. Calabrese, lying where he'd fallen. The Murphy twins, tangled together. Henry Walton, and the Germans too, 7 of them. Young men in different uniforms, just as dead. We loaded our boys onto stretchers. I helped carry Calabrese. His body was stiff with rigor mortis, and he was so cold, so cold. When we got back to our lines, the burial detail took them away. Graves registration would handle it from there. Tag them, bury them, send letters home, the whole efficient machinery of military death. I found a bottle of French wine somewhere, sat alone in an abandoned dugout and drank until I couldn't see straight, trying to forget, trying to stop seeing their faces. It didn't work. It never works. Donnelly found me there around midnight, sat down next to me without saying anything. We passed the bottle back and forth in silence. You did what you had to, he said finally. I killed them. I got them killed. The war killed them. The goddamn stupid war killed them. I gave the orders. Morrison gave the orders. You just followed them. We all did. But that didn't make it better. Following orders doesn't absolve you. Not when you can see the results. Not when you have to carry the bodies back. The next day, they started sending us home. The 28th Division was being demobilized. We'd be on a ship to New York within the week, back to Pennsylvania, back to our families, back to our lives. I couldn't imagine it. Couldn't picture myself back on the farm doing normal things. How do you milk a cow after you've watched your friends die? How do you sit at a Sunday dinner table and make small talk about the weather? Eddie Marshall found me before we shipped out. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days. Sergeant Riley, he said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My rifle, I didn't mean... I know, Eddie. It wasn't your fault. Then whose fault was it? I didn't have an answer for him. Still don't. We shipped out on November 18th, 1918. 7 days after the armistice. The war was over. We were going home. But none of us felt like we were going home. We felt like we were just leaving the cemetery behind. I've been back in Pennsylvania for 42 years now. Took over my father's farm in 1920. Got married in 1922 to a good woman named Catherine, who never asks about France. Raised 3 kids. They're grown now, have kids of their own. From the outside, I'm sure it looks like I lived a good life. Happy life. Normal life. But I never left that clearing. Every year on November 10th, I wake up in the middle of the night. Same time every year. 0300 hours. The time Bobby Hayes died in my arms. I wake up and I can smell the river water, feel the cold, hear the gunfire. Catherine sleeps through it. She's used to me being restless on certain nights. I don't talk about the war. Not really. People ask sometimes at the VFW hall, at reunions, at Memorial Day services. They want to hear about the glory, the brotherhood, the great adventure. They want to hear that it meant something. I tell them simple stories, the mud, the food, the cold. Leave out the parts that matter. I can't tell them about watching Calabrese's head snap back. Can't tell them about Patrick Murphy dying while holding his brother's body. Can't tell them how Henry Walton's blood felt on my hands. Can't tell them about Bobby calling for his mother while his life leaked out onto the duck boards. Can't tell them that I got those boys killed for no reason at all. For nothing. For a recon patrol that accomplished nothing on the last night of a war that was already over. I looked them up after I got home, wrote to their families, tried to explain what happened, tried to tell them their sons died bravely, died for something important. But I couldn't make myself write the truth. That they died because I made a bad decision. That they died stupidly, pointlessly, hours before they would have been safe. Mrs. Murphy, the twins' mother, she wrote me back. Thanked me for being with her boys at the end. Said it comforted her to know they weren't alone. I've kept that letter for 42 years. I've read it maybe 1,000 times. It doesn't comfort me. It just reminds me that she's wrong. They were alone. I couldn't save them. Couldn't even bury them properly. Jack Donnelly lives in Boston now. We write sometimes. Christmas cards, mostly. Neither of us mentions that night. We don't have to. It's there in every word we don't write. Eddie Marshall killed himself in 1923. Hanged himself in his father's barn. His sister wrote to tell me. Said Eddie had never been right after the war. Said he blamed himself for what happened. I should have told him it wasn't his fault. Should have told him every day until he believed it. But I couldn't, because I blamed him too. And I hated myself for blaming him. Klein disappeared. I tried to find him in the 30s, but nobody knew where he'd gone. Last anyone heard, he was drifting, riding the rails. Couldn't hold down a job, couldn't stay in one place. I understand that. Sometimes I want to disappear too. They call us the greatest generation now. Say we saved the world, built the modern America, came home and got to work and never complained. But they don't see what we see when we close our eyes. They don't feel what we feel. They don't carry what we carry. I'm 65 years old. My doctor says I might have another 20 years in me. 20 more years of waking up at 0300 hours on November 10th. 20 more years of seeing those faces. 20 more years of knowing that 5 boys died because of orders I gave, decisions I made. The war ended 42 years ago. But for me, it never ended. I'm still in that clearing. Still making that decision to move forward. Still getting them killed. November 10th, 1918. My last night in the war. But the war never had a last night for me. It's still going. Still killing. Still taking. I survived. I made it home. I lived a life. But I never came back from France. That sergeant who crossed the river, he's still there. Still trying to save them. Still failing. The armistice came at 1100 hours on November 11th, 1918. But the war never ended. Not for us. Not for the ones who survived. We just learned to live with the ghosts,